I have also just made a drink. If you want to grab a drink while I talk through this video, that's probably a good idea. I'm going to be doing a bit of a how I organise my A-level stuff, how I file everything, and basically how I'm just going to be more organised after my mocks. First thing I'm going to start with is my chemistry folder. I think this is probably one of my most organised folders. I have 3, one for each subject. This is obviously just year 1 content. We've only started a tiny bit of year 2 content, and by that I mean like 2 lessons worth. So this is the majority of year 1 content. There's actually not that much, which is quite surprising. Although in chemistry, I feel like we don't make as many notes. We just kind of do questions as we go along. So when you open the folder, I have the lever arch folders. I originally had just ring binders, like the normal little small ones, but I quickly had to switch to these because I knew that my year 2 content was not going to fit in a ring binder. I have these little dividers of each module. I don't do them in front of each topic just because I don't have enough. When I do buy some more, I will put them at the front. I also have the specification for the module at the front. I actually got these from a different YouTuber. I will link her account in the description if you want to get the specification. This is for OCR anyway. I forgot to specify this is OCR chemistry. So I have the specification for the module, and then I have my notes. My notes from about September to about March are not the best. I didn't have a very good note-taking strategy, so they're kind of all over the place. Some of them are on my iPad, some of them are in here. I have my notes for each topic, and then at the end of each topic I have a plastic wallet with any handouts, homework, basically anything that's not in this is in this. I then have my next module, and then again I have the specification. I split the specification up into different modules just so that it's not all at the front, because if I need to find something I could just go to the specific section. We used to take our notes in chemistry was we would basically just copy stuff down from the board, but we actually had a teacher change about 2 months ago, and the new teacher that we have basically prints us off the slides from the PowerPoint that we use in lessons, so we actually don't take as many notes anymore. If we do take notes, we basically just write around these, which actually I kind of think is better, because sometimes I don't always take everything in when I'm copying down from the board, because we used to go through it so quickly that once I'd written it down I hadn't had time to process what I was even writing. So I actually do prefer the way that she teaches us. So we just get, this is for 1 lesson, this is actually a lesson from a couple of days ago. We get a printout and we can just highlight over it, write around it, and I think that's just a lot better. This is where my folders slightly differ from each subject. So for the most part, in most of my lessons, I have my notes at the start. Then after I have all of my notes, I have my plastic wallet for all of my PAG stuff that didn't get put into my PAG book. Basically PAGs are like practicals, assessed practicals that we do in science. Sometimes we do ones that aren't assessed just for fun, and I put anything that doesn't need to be in my actual assessed book in here so I don't lose it, because sometimes they are still helpful. Even if they're not assessed, they're still kind of helpful for the content. After that I have my assessment plastic wallet. I keep all of the assessments that we did in here. I've actually got a separate one that I'm going to use for year 13, but these are all the assessments that I did in year 12, and I keep them because they're good to look back on to see what I need to work on. Honestly, I'd say that my chemistry folder is the most organised, probably just because it's the subject I care most about at the moment. I just want it all to look really nice. But basically all of my subjects are done like this. They're filed in the same way with the specification. I just find it easier so that you can look through things easily and know where to find things in here. I also don't have this labelled because I am gonna reuse these folders when I go to uni, so I don't want to stick something on it and then have to try and peel it off, because the stickers that I have are really hard to get off. So I've left it unlabelled for now, but I do know which subject it is because chemistry is always pink. And also this hoodie making its first appearance on my account. I got this in a charity shop like 2 weeks ago, and it is probably the best purchase I've ever made. The best £4 that I've spent. Was it £4? It was either £3 or £4, I can't remember. Best money ever spent. This is the uni I want to go to, if that wasn't clear. Manifesting. My maths one is very different to my sciences, just because of the way that it's taught in my lessons. They are taught very differently, so my notes and my filing are very different. So just for context, for maths I have 2 different teachers and they both teach in very different ways, so that's why these notes are kind of 2 separate things, because they're taught by 2 different people who teach in very different ways. So just a bit of context before I show you. So again, in the front, excuse you, I have files, dividers, again in a lever arch folder. This was the one that made me realise I needed to buy ring binders, because my maths file was 1, falling apart, and 2, full to the brim. I need to put a new one on there because that one is tearing off, so I will get a new one in a minute. But I have I wouldn't really call this a specification because there's not really a specification for maths. It's more just the list of the topics that are on the front of the textbook. I basically just copied them out. Was it worth the time? Probably not. Does it make it look good? Yes. My notes from September are very chaotic because we had a random teacher change at the start of the year, and it was, yeah. So I'm gonna skip in a topic because those are not the best way to show how I file. So I have dividers at the front of every topic because there are subtopics within the topics. So it's worth it to have dividers in front of every topic. Again, my notes were not great from the start of the year. They were a bit messy. I didn't really know how to take notes, but my notes would go at the front. And we usually had these things called checkpoints that one of my teachers would set for homework. So my checkpoints always go at the front of this plastic wallet. And then I also put any other homework, any handouts that didn't go in there. Although now I do usually just hole punch the handouts and put them in because otherwise I won't look at them. As for stats and mechanics, I basically kept them in the same folder because when I bought my folders they came in a pack of 3 and I didn't want to buy another folder just for stats and mechanics because I can just put it in here. So I actually organised my statistics section yesterday because the way we're getting taught statistics was a bit confusing. We basically got taught everything that was going to be on the mock before the mock, but we actually hadn't finished statistics before the mock, so we still have more stuff to do. So she's kind of teaching us it in a bit of a weird order. So I was putting it in my folder in the order that we'd learnt it, but that wasn't actually the order it was meant to be in. So start of my statistics section is the large data set. If you do maths, you know what that is. And then a bunch of questions to do with the large data set. Not my favourite topic in statistics, not gonna lie. Why do I need to know about rainfall? Why do I need to know about wind speed? What I'm trying to do in maths at the moment, I'm making it a personal goal, is to do the questions from the textbook. I'm trying to do all the questions from that book in each section because I want maths to be my strong point. It's not my strong point, but I want it to be. So I've got to kind of convince ourselves we can do maths. And then at the end of each topic, I have a plastic wallet for any handouts, homework, or anything I just didn't hole punch in. As for the next section, that is basically everything from one of my classes. And then my other class is taught a little bit differently. We get given booklets. They are basically the textbook, but with the examples removed. So we then do the examples in class. I mean, they're taught in the same way, but one of our teachers likes to use booklets and the other one just kind of gives us sheets every lesson and we do it like that. And then this is where I'm missing a divider because this is my mechanics stuff. We got taught mechanics by only one of our teachers. One of our teachers is teaching us mechanics, the other one's teaching us statistics. So these are my mechanics booklets. So I don't actually have any written notes for mechanics, they're all just my booklets. I can't show you the next thing because it has my school logo on it, but I'm basically just going to explain what it is. It is a big booklet of all the maths notes that you have to know. My maths folder is definitely the one that I need to go through and like kind of reorganise, because I also have this random plastic wallet that has homework in it, but I don't know what topic that's from. I think it's statistics because it looks like statistics. I then have my assessments, tests. I have both my maths mocks back. They're actually in my bag, I just need to take them out, but these will also go in here. And finally we have biology. I actually think biology is my smallest folder, surprisingly, because it is the most content heavy subject I do. It is the smallest folder. It was a lot bigger a couple of weeks ago because I had all of my past papers in it, but I got rid of them. So again, we start with a divider at the front. I'm not actually sure why there's a divider at the front. I'm not sure there's any point. The biology one is pretty much very, very similar to my chemistry one. I keep the specification for every module at the start, and then my notes sit at the front. I have in these plastic wallets any mind maps that I make, any homework or any handouts. And that basically is the same throughout all of my notes. Notes were not brilliant at the start of the year, although I would like to think that they have improved. I seem to have gone on a purple colour scheme for biology, so basically all my biology notes now are purple. Purple is my favourite colour though, so. These were actually some of the stuff that we did recently, because for some reason we did module 3 after module 4. I'm not sure why, but I've actually started hole punching a lot more of my handouts, because I never look at my handouts if they're in the plastic wallet, and these were stuff that I really needed to look at, so I hole punched them. At the back of my folder, I have any mind maps for PAGs, because I frequently forget how to do PAGs, so I have mind maps for each one. This is my assessment plastic wallet. I don't think we've done many assessments. It doesn't feel like we've done many assessments in biology, or maybe we have and I've just forgotten to put some in, but this feels weirdly small. This is my old notes. Basically, I had this thing at the start of the year where I was like, I'm going to rewrite all my notes when I get home. I'm going to do them really nice. And I did for about 3 months, and then I didn't have any time anymore because I had to revise. So my actual nice notes are in the front, and these are like my horrible class notes that are so bad that they don't make sense. So I've learned how to make notes now, guys. And that is it for my folders. I feel like I've rambled on for ages about that. In terms of my revision resources, I mostly make flashcards for biology and chemistry, just because that's the way I learn most. I have started making mind maps recently, especially for biology, because there's so much content that when I put everything into flashcards, it's just so overwhelming, because there's like 80 flashcards for one topic, and I'm just thinking, how can I possibly get that all into my head in a week? And a mind map is actually better because it forces me to condense it. I could probably do a whole video on my actual revision resources, but I'm going to keep this one just for my folders, my organisation kind of tips. In terms of any tips for organisation, honestly, my first one is just to file things the day you get it, unless you're told not to. Unless you're told to bring something in the next day, then keep it in your bag. But file things as soon as you can and put them in order. Write the date on. There's a reason we get taught for 5 years to write the date on things. It's kind of useful. The tip is to buy a day folder. I don't mean a big folder like this. I mean one of those little ones with the plastic wallets built into it, where you can put any handouts or notes that you make throughout the day so that they don't get crumpled in your bag and go missing. Lastly is to stay on top of making your revision resources. You don't want to come to the end of the year and realise that you've completely forgotten to make flashcards for a whole module. So making a checklist or a little to-do list on your laptop or your iPad just makes it so much clearer on what you've made flashcards on, or whatever resource you use. I started doing that for maths this term, especially for stats and mechanics, because statistics actually requires me to make flashcards. And I have not been making maths flashcards this year. As much as our teacher has told us to make flashcards, I just didn't, because I didn't think the math flashcards would be useful, but they actually kind of are. So I've started making a little checklist, and every time I have a lesson, I file my stuff, write my flashcards, do my questions, and then I can tick them off. So I hope that was a useful video to show you how I organise my A-level content into my folders, and if you want I will do a video on my revision resources, how I make them, how I keep them organised, and I hope this helped.